Okay, I think we are live. Good afternoon. Live from New York City. We are right outside of Madison Square Park on this Monday night. It is roughly 8:40 p.m. Eastern Time on the corner of Broadway and East 23rd Street. Now, we didn't have enough time yesterday to do the Market to Look Ahead stream. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, usually every Sunday night we do the weekly Market to Look Ahead stream where we talk about all the major events, news, and upcoming earnings reports that are going to be taking place on Wall Street. So I was traveling, we didn't have time to do that. We'll go into that a little bit today, but I just wanted to quickly review some of the things we talked about last week when we were in Miami. I think the biggest topic for discussion was obviously the Federal Reserve or Fed Chair Jerome Powell's speech at Jackson Hole. It was very, very short, roughly 8 to 10 minute speech, but I think he pretty much got the point across, right? That it is not enough for one CPI print to be showing positivity in relation to inflation. We're going to need a lot more economic data to come out that's going to signal to the Fed that inflation is actually materially slowing and is headed in the right direction. And I think we may get some of that data that Fed Chair Jerome Powell is talking about released this week. Tomorrow is a big one, so the Bureau of Labor Statistics will release the job openings and labor turnover survey. Many economists on Wall Street forecast about 10.3 million job openings on the last business day of July. That's almost 400,000 jobs fewer than in June, although we still are running at a very, very tight labor market here. There's roughly about 2 job openings for every American that is looking for work. So we'll watch out for that tomorrow. Also, I believe that report also includes, and it'll give us a little bit of clarity, to Americans who are voluntarily quitting their jobs. So after the pandemic, I'd say late 2020, throughout 2021, we saw a massive exodus from corporate America, people quitting their jobs, trying to start their own businesses and to do their own things. So I think one of the things that Fed Chair Jerome Powell and the remainder of the Federal Reserve is going to be looking for is a return of these particular employees that have left the labor force to return to the workplace. Obviously, last month's job number came in, I believe, at about 528,000. All while the labor force participation rate continues to decline. Friday, which is going to be September 2nd, so the second day of the month, we are going to get the jobs report for August. Now, expectations are for non-farm payrolls to come in at about 270,000 after a gain of 528,000. That was an extreme reading that we got last month, and signals to the Federal Reserve that the economy is still running white hot, right? So if we're adding about over 500,000 non-farm payrolls or 500,000 jobs into the economy, well, what does that say about inflation? What does that say about the job that the Federal Reserve is doing? Probably means they have a lot more work to do, right? So we just need to be cognizant of that. We need to stay conscious of that. Obviously, as we know, usually the terminology or the saying on Wall Street goes, don't fight the Federal Reserve. We talk about Stanley Druckenmiller, Paul Tudor Jones, Ray Dalio saying don't fight the Fed. And it looks like we're going to have a lot of fighting to go up against the Federal Reserve as they are very steadfast with raising rates. So we'll talk about that tonight. Let's see who we have in the chat. Hopefully everybody's week is off to a fantastic start. Hopefully your Monday is going good, everybody. So I see Leonardo is here. Good to see you. Hey, Gregory NYC. Good to see you, Gregory. This is nice. We're back in New York. Yeah, so I did get back earlier today. I took about, well, my travel plans were crazy today. We'll go into that as well. I'll tell you guys that story in a minute. Hey, Otto is here. Says, hey, Tom. Matthew P. says, howdy, Tom, old chap. Good to see you, Matthew. Always a pleasure. Thank you for joining the stream on this Monday evening. Bernard Friedman, the B3. Welcome to B3. Dan Zhang says, hey, Tom, welcome back to New York. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that, man. Hopefully your week is off to a good start. Tess is here, says, hey, Tom. Kilo Whiskey Juliet says, hello there. Ren 10 says, yes, all is right with the world. Thank you, Ren 10. All right, so to start off the stream, everybody, we are standing outside of the very, very famous Flatiron Building. It's a fan favorite on the stream, although it's still covered in the scaffolding, which is a bit of a bummer. Al J is here. Says, hey Tom, good to see you, Al J. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Valentina is here. Says, hey Tom, it's been a while. Happy to be here. Valentina, happy Monday to you. Hopefully your week is off to a good start. L the original. Wow, we got a packed house here early today. Good to see you, L. E is here, Bagels and Walks. Welcome, welcome. I see Sally. I see Tiago Pereira. Sunshine after rain. Hey, Myra King says, good evening, Tom and everybody. New York City is looking great tonight. Miami and New York City both are awesome. Yeah, you know, I'm not gonna lie, definitely missing Miami a little bit. Definitely missing it a little bit. So my flight was crazy. So I was supposed to take off at a Miami International Airport this morning at around 10 o'clock, but late last night, and this is part of the reason why I didn't have time to do the live stream, late last night I get a text from American Airlines saying that my flight was canceled. So I go online, I try to reschedule the flight for later in the day. There's no flights. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I give them a call and they say, you know what, we could just squeeze you in on this flight, but you have to fly out of Fort Lauderdale. I'm like, done. The flight took off at 10 o'clock, didn't really have any problems. However, it took a long time boarding and there was a massive, massive storm off the coast of Fort Lauderdale. So had we taken only 15 more minutes for everybody to get seated, we would have been quite possibly delayed for hours or canceled. But yeah, I mean, Fort Lauderdale Airport's not bad. Usually I fly out of Miami International, but you know, Fort Lauderdale is rather small, but I could tell they're doing major expansions on it. But yeah, you know, I guess the only thing that matters is that I made it back, right? Hey, Jimmy Anderson, what's up? Whoa, Jimmy. There we go. So Jimmy's like, hey, Tom, I finally graduated college, 31 years old. What, dude, congrats, man. That's awesome to hear. You know, it's not the age that you do it. It just shows that you had persistence and resilience to do it, my friend. That's awesome. Congratulations on your success. Love to hear that. Thank you for your success and thank you for sharing that with us. Jesus says, I'm so glad you made it back. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Jonathan Richards says, hello, Tom. Good to have you back. Thank you, Jonathan. You know, it's good to be back. Not going to lie, though, missing Miami. But usually when I just arrive back to New York, I always say that, and then vice versa, too. But, yeah, I mean, weather's good. During this time of year in Miami, it's rather humid. But I kind of like that. Kind of like that weather. I'll tell you guys this before we dive right into the material. I guess you could call it lesson plan for the stream. I can definitely sense that fall is in the air. You guys ever walk around the city or whatever part of the country or maybe anywhere around the world that you're from and you walk outside and you're like, yep, fall is coming. Yep. That's exactly what I'm feeling right now. It's actually a little bit chilly. Well, maybe it feels chilly because, you know, we're used to streaming in 90-degree heat and 80% humidity at 9 o'clock at night in Florida, so. Bernard Friedman says, Tom, Fort Lauderdale Airport is 1,080 acres. Very nice. Hey, Nee says, hey, Tom, what do you miss about Miami? So, I think I just miss the weather. I miss the weather. It's really clean, it's really nice there. People are nice. The neighborhood where I live in Miami, Florida is really, really nice. It's not too, I don't know how to explain it. I live in a very, very quaint neighborhood where everybody is really, really laid back. So coming home and just sitting outside and seeing all the palm trees and the mango trees and things like that, it's just kind of nice. It's nice to get out of the city every once in a while. Ever since I moved or relocated, split my time 50-50 between Miami and New York City, you can really tell the difference when you get out of the city. And I think it's healthy. I think it's healthy to get out of the city every once in a while, even if it's just for a weekend. Martin says, so you live in Little Havana. I do not live there. Although I was looking at some properties there. There's actually, for anybody who's a multifamily real estate investor in the chat, there's some pretty decent properties in Little Havana. And it's the area has materially improved over the last couple of years, especially just in the last 5 to 10 years. Hey, Charlie Richardson says, hey everybody, good to see you. Charlie J22 says, hello Tom and everybody. Welcome. CT says, you can't be unhappy when you see palm trees. Exactly. It's, I mean, I love New York, don't get me wrong, I love both, but it's just a different feel, different sort of way of life, everybody. Warwalker says, Tom, how does the city smell? Not too bad. It wasn't too hot today. So usually when it's really hot, like sweltering heat in the city, that's when it could smell not too good. But it's actually nice. It was a nice day today in the city. It was hot, but it wasn't too hot. It wasn't like the crazy heat and humidity that we've been having as of late. You know, why don't we do this? We'll go down to Union Square, and then we'll make a U-turn, and we'll head back up towards the Grand Central Station. I want to see what's going on over there. Jimmy Anderson says, when you're in New York during the holidays is the best. Looks so cool. Can't wait for that time of year. That's another nice, really nice time during the holidays. The only thing I'll say, which is actually kind of a positive, over the past 5 years, I would say, in New York, it seems as if the seasons are getting a little bit pushed back. And I think we talked about this before on the stream, because what I've been noticing is that it can be like 65, sometimes even in the low 70s, well into October. And I remember one particular time on Thanksgiving, it was 72 degrees out. So I think that trend is going to continue, and it's actually quite nice when it's not, 20 degrees during Thanksgiving and during Christmas. If it's 55, high 40s around Christmas time, that's solid. That's awesome weather. So, hey, Martin says, this has been kind of an odd summer for weather in Miami. Not a lot of storms or hurricanes. Chicago, not miserable heat, lows in the 60s. I say global warming. So Martin, I was talking to my neighbor before I left, and he said the same exact thing. Usually what happens in southern Florida, especially in the summer, is you'll have these torrential downpours, like crazy rainstorms that almost mimic a hurricane, but it'll only last for like an hour or two, and then it clears up. But I was in Miami for 2 weeks, maybe a little over 2 weeks. I'd say maybe 17 days. And I think it rained once. Which is very uncharacteristic of it. However, did anybody read Barron's today? I mean, this week? So if anybody gets the paper Barron's, or maybe you subscribe to it online, check out this week's cover story for Barron's. There was a really good article about the massive droughts we're having, not only in the places that would be obvious for droughts, right? You think about, Nevada, parts of Arizona, and even California, but all across the country, we are seeing extreme droughts, okay? And I think this actually may support my thesis. Does anybody remember the sort of fun, quirky live stream we had one night where everybody had to take a guess at what the most undervalued potential land market or real estate market is in the country? And sort of my take on this is, if I had to, go out of character here, and if I could only buy land in a particular part of the United States, I think I would look to the Finger Lakes region in central New York. So I guess you could call it upstate central New York, because I'm not sure if anybody in the chat has been there, the central New York Finger Lakes region. It's really nice. Obviously in the winter it's not so nice. However, the farmland is extremely fertile. There's virtually no noise and light pollution. And some of the Finger Lakes are among the cleanest lakes in the entire world. Not even in the United States, in the entire world. So, I don't know, maybe it could be an interesting play, especially now that we're seeing this trend of severe droughts sweeping across the nation. What do you guys think about that? Yeah, TMBs like the Finger Lakes are so pricey. They are, but I wouldn't be surprised if land values there continue to skyrocket. I would not be surprised if land values there continue to skyrocket, especially around Skinny Atlas Lake. So a lot of hedge funders in the city have, like weekend places, little cabins, I guess you could call them up there. Hey, speaking of New Yorker, we have Disney cast member. What's up? It says, hey Tom, hottest real estate market right now is Brington, New York? I've never heard of that. Maybe it's, what is that, Western New York Disney, or where's that? Hey, Nee's like, I want a little cabin, same. Wendy England is here, says hello and good evening. Welcome, Wendy. Thank you so much for joining tonight. We are walking Union Square. So I came down here a little bit earlier on my lunch break, and it was absolutely packed. I mean, Union Square was really packed tonight. Yeah, Jay says near whole paycheck tonight, I know. I actually think one of our viewers of this stream is the manager here. Caleb, good to see you. Caleb says, has it been more humid in New York City this summer or no? I would actually argue that it's probably a little bit cooler than usual in New York. Maybe my perception about weather is a little bit skewed since I've been spending a lot of time in Florida, but hey, Denise is here, says, I guess, I know, yeah, it hasn't really been raining too much. Check out the top of the Empire State Building tonight, looks great. Joan is here, says hello, welcome Joan. Tom M says most walks that you now have allow subscribers only. Yes, Tom, that is correct. So I think I actually forgot to put on the subscribers only mode tonight. So I do apologize, but as the channel has grown, everybody, so have the trolls and the, I guess you could call them harassers that try to start trouble in the chat. So it's less likely for somebody that's subscribed to the channel to, troll or say something nasty. Also, a lot of those spam bots that promote like cryptocurrency scams, a lot of them have been negated ever since we put on the subscribers only mode. But my laptop died before we started streaming, so it's going to get probably a little bit rowdy in the chat tonight. So we'll just have to have the moderators on high alert. Hey Willie, good to see you, my friend. Welcome. Cynthia B says, good evening from California. Cynthia, we were just talking about California and the droughts. Now, I know I'm not trying to pick on California. I know it's not exclusive to California, but I would suggest that if you guys, maybe if you don't subscribe to it, the only thing about Barron's is they tend to put a lot of things behind the paywall, which I understand. But read the cover story of Barron's this week that goes into detail about the problems we've been having across the United States as it relates to droughts. And California is definitely one of those locations. It's been having a really negative impact on insurance as well. So insurance companies that write policies for homeowners insurance in places in California that are very susceptible to wildfires and things like that, a lot of them won't even renew the policies anymore. And again, this isn't just exclusive to California, it's broad-based across the United States. You could even argue the same thing is starting to happen now in southern Florida and places in Louisiana that are very susceptible to hurricanes and big storms. A lot of these insurance companies won't even write a policy, which is kind of crazy. So in Florida, we have a state-owned insurance company called Citizens. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar, but we've talked about them before on the stream. Hey, Sean is here, says, good evening, Tom. Welcome, Sean. Connor says, hey, Tom, are you walking through Little Italy tonight? I'm not sure. I mean, we probably certainly could. I don't really have a stream planned out for tonight. But, since we're walking in that direction, we might as well stop by Little Italy before we head back up. I think it'd kind of be nice. Yeah, Disney cast members says insurance companies are leaving Florida. Yeah, there's been, Disney, the only insurance company that would write the policy on my property was Citizens. And you're starting to see the same thing happen in places like California for other reasons. But yeah, I mean, as storms and as climates get more extreme, premiums go up. So the problem is insurance premiums go up. And the issue with that is state governments. Oh, look at this dog. The problem with that is state governments will sometimes overstep their boundaries and come in and put limits and caps on how much they could raise the insurance premiums. But what they don't understand is that if the insurance companies don't raise the insurance premiums, it's very hard to be profitable. So if they're not profitable in a particular market, well, then they're going to leave the market. So it's definitely something that we need to pay attention to. Hey, Sandra Dickinson is here. Says, hey, Tom, the historical landmarks of New York City and the diversity of its people is unparalleled. There is a special feeling with you, Tom, walking in New York City. I appreciate that, and I agree. I second everything you said. I agree 100%. Lotus Blue says, have you seen cheaper cars try to copy the body style of more expensive, such as Kia or Rolls-Royce? Now that I think of it, I'm not too sure. It seems like over the last 20 years, almost all cars look the same. They look like kind of mass-produced, sort of plasticky type cars. I mean, if you look at the vehicles that were built in the 1950s and 60s, I mean, all of them were extremely, extremely unique. Now that I'm thinking about it, that's a good point. Compare the body style of like one of those original T-Bird cars, or even the cars back in the 50s and 60s. They all looked very, very unique. And now everything almost looks the same, right? I mean, if you drive down the highway, it seems like everything just looks like the same hunk of plastic that everything looks like. Interesting. Hey, Austin City Limits, its premiums go up because of the cost of building houses. That's the main reason, yeah. I mean, especially if they're just going to get burned down by a wildfire and, knocked over by a hurricane or something like that. So it's definitely not ideal. That's why they always say in particular parts of, well, mainly in all parts of Florida, they tell you to buy concrete block construction. So in the early 1990s and throughout the 2000s, a lot of the construction, surprisingly, has been wood frame down there in southern Florida, which is crazy. If you're going to live in a place where they regularly get hurricane force winds, I don't know if I would want wood frame. So I think you make a good point. Yeah, Martin's like cars built in the 60s and 70s were the best. I think from a aesthetics point of view, like I agree. They look super unique. Very, very unique. Yeah, Wendy England's like, Tom, Tornado Alley is getting worse too. You're right. Connor said, did somebody ask if you're vegan? So not me. There's a vegan restaurant over there, so I think they were just deciding on which part that they want to go to. Martin says, my dad had a 1925 Model T. Oh my gosh. How much do you think that thing is worth now? How much do you think a 1929 Model T is worth? Grand Street One's like, Tom, I never have a hard time finding my 2005 Jaguar XK8 in any parking lot. I could imagine. It seems like any baseline Toyota, any baseline Kia or Honda look the same. And I mean, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Obviously, they're cheaper costs, which is good for consumers. But everybody, so tonight we're going to be talking just a quick review and doing the markets to look ahead stream. Obviously, yesterday we were not able to do the markets to look ahead stream. I was dealing with travel issues. They canceled my flight. I had to scramble to reschedule it. I actually flew out of Fort Lauderdale, but things worked out well. So I think the biggest theme for this week is jobs data.
Yo, hey, I'm walking over to Watch Square. I'm meeting up with that guy Nathan that we met on the way back. We're gonna chill for a bit. I wanted to hit you up with something up there.
I think the biggest theme for the week is going to be jobs data. And the reason why that's so important is because, as Fed Chair Jerome Powell said last week at Jackson Hole when he gave his 8-minute speech, but I think in the very short 8 minutes that he was talking, he definitely said a lot and set the tone for monetary policy going forward, which is they're not budging and they're going to continue to tighten, they're going to continue to raise interest rates until they get the job done. That's sort of the main message that I got from the speech. Another thing he said is that one single CPI print that seems to be headed in the right direction is quote unquote nowhere near the data levels that we need to see in order to change course on monetary policy. And I think I would agree. So he's going to be looking at jobs numbers. He's going to be looking at job turnovers. So how many people are voluntarily quitting their jobs. And I think on Friday is going to be the big number where we get the non-farm payrolls out. So the reason why it's important is for, I think, two reasons. Number one, if we look at the headline CPI number. Let me cross the street here. One of the things, if we look at the headline CPI number, one of the main reasons why it has been going down is because it includes very volatile food and energy. And the good news is that energy prices have been coming down, right? The price of crude oil has been coming down from a high of about $130 a barrel. I think we're trading at around 95. So gasoline prices has in essence come down as well. And number two is wage pressures are continuing to rise. So even though volatile food and energy is coming down, the main two components of the CPI, which would be the core CPI, which is exclusionary of the volatile food and energy that Jerome Powell wants to see come down, is number one, shelter costs, so the cost of rent. And that makes about 33% of the CPI number. That's actually expanding and going up on a month-over-month basis in addition to year-over-year. And we want to see wage pressures come down. So the reason why we should be paying attention to the jobs numbers is because as the economy adds jobs, for example, last month we got a gangbusters jobs numbers coming out, or that came out, which was about 528,000 jobs that were added, all while labor force participation rate was headed in the wrong direction, actually going down. So that means all of those employees who were hired in the labor force, they had a lot of bargaining power, right? So if you're a company and you're trying to hire and you have a smaller than normal talent pool to hire from, well, the employees have extreme negotiating and bargaining power to say, hey, you need to pay me more, right? I'm not going to leave my job or re-enter the workforce until I get, a 10% raise, right? So that puts pressure on wage gains, which in turn puts pressure on inflation. Okay, so Fed Chair Jerome Powell wants to see all of that drop off. So I think the narrative of good news is bad news and bad news is good news is still in play. I think if we get an abysmal jobs number, I wouldn't be surprised if the market rallied off the back of that. Hey, Zane is here, says, do you think New York City is the cleanest city in the USA? No, probably not. Probably not. Chris, hey Chris, says Tom, I love your stream. Your information is awesome, and I love the historical buildings we get to see. Hey, thank you, Chris. I appreciate that very much. Hopefully you're having a fantastic Monday. Everybody, we are standing right across the street from the beautiful Washington Square Park. I see my friend Vinny Castellano over there from Staten Island. Hey, Vinny, send my regards to Maria. Appreciate it. Wendy England's a super clear stream tonight. Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate it. Hey, oh my gosh, Nicole's here. Nicole, I forgot. You're here now, aren't you? So Nicole is our pal from California, and I think she's visiting New York. I forgot. Hopefully your trip is off to a good start. Good to see you, Nicole. Disney cast member says, Tom, the cleanest city in the United States is Honolulu. Disney, did you see, so Investors Business Daily, they didn't do the poll. I think somebody else did the poll. Well, it wasn't a poll, it was a study, but I read it in Investors Business Daily. They said the city in the United States with the highest life expectancy is Honolulu, Hawaii. Now, I guess that makes sense, right? So they said the city with the highest life expectancy is Honolulu, Hawaii. And I think we could probably draw a very, very close correlation with stress levels, right? I mean, even if you're doing the most strenuous manual labor, I'd rather be doing it in Honolulu, Hawaii than Detroit, Michigan, I guess. What do you guys think? Yeah, I mean, Disney cast members, like, people rarely even get the flu there. So I was listening to a podcast, and they suspect one of the reasons for that is stress levels, right? So even though in New York City and in the state of New York, we have fantastic healthcare here, so that's been a growing debate amongst me and some of my friends, as a lot of us have been relocating down to Florida. It is 100% correct that New York has better healthcare and a healthcare system than Florida. However, people tend to get sick here a lot, and I think it may be because of stress levels. You know, New York City is a very, very big city. A lot of people are go-getters here. It seems like nobody really has an off switch, even including myself sometimes. You know, you could work yourself to death. I think stress has a pretty big, or let me rephrase that actually. I would say stress is probably the top 5 factors in getting sick. And not only getting sick like catching a cold, but, you know, developing forms of cancers and things like that. Well, check out this shot of the World Trade Center down here. Mike C says it takes forever to get a doctor's appointment in Central Florida. Really? Jeez. Ren 10 says New York is a super productive city. Agreed. Agreed with that, Ren 10. 2 barnacles is like sharks in the water, I know. Funny. Hey, Gennaro, this is Brazilda, New York. Good to see you, Gennaro. Welcome. Charlie Richardson says, I guess their quality of life is better. We'll do one quick lap around Washington Square Park. So what do you guys think about this? I know we're sort of going off the rails tonight on the stream, but you know, for our first night back in New York City, I mean, we can't not go off the rails, right? So what do you guys think about this? And again, I'm not a medical professional. This is just total, we're just BSing on the stream after work. I think that the shift to a hybrid work environment is actually going to do wonders on people's mental health and will probably increase life expectancy in the United States over time. Now, I know that's a pretty bold statement, but if you think about it, if you're slaving away at the office every single day, you know, in the same commute, stuck in traffic, that puts a toll on your body. I mean, it put a toll on my body over the years commuting to the office every day. But if you think about it, imagine if you only had to go to the office 2 days a week, which many of my friends only go to the office 2 days a week now, and then the rest of the week you could work from home. I mean, your stress levels are definitely going to go down. What do you guys think of that? Wow, so you could see the Empire State Building through the arch here in New York. Hey, Gerald says, Tom, welcome back to New York City. Thank you, Gerald. I appreciate the warm welcome back. Big Talk says, is it hot out? It's actually not too bad. It actually feels like fall is in the air. Becky Zed says, I agree with that, Tom. J22 says, I agree. Bagels and Walks says, Tom, flexibility is a game changer, but we should remember not all workers are in the situation that allows it. That's a good point. That's actually a really good point. You know, not everybody's a tech worker. What is that? You guys see this? Look at this thing. What is that? Huh. But yeah, Bagels and Walks, I think you make a really good point. You know, not everybody works in an office job where they can work from home, right? You know, the industry that I tend to sell into the most, home health care, visiting nurses, visiting RNs, things like that, they don't have the luxury of working remotely, right? I mean, you know, one of the director of patient services, he almost landed that. If he was going a little bit faster, he would have stuck that. One of the director of patient services that I work with, she's almost like a mentor to me. She's so smart. She's fantastic. She's like, home health care is a contact sport. And it's one of the most important contact sports in the world, and I agree. So for those type of workers, I mean, you know, I think there's going to need to be a serious conversation around compensation because they're going to take the brunt of the physical workload. So, hey, Zabatata says it's the best pair of legs in Washington Square Park. Well, there used to be a guy who would take a shower in here every night. I'm not sure where he went. Very Ortiz, no trolling comments, my friend. I apologize, but no trolling comments. Pixelogic says, Tom, the problem with working remotely is that there's less of a separation between work and home life. Some actually work more hours remotely. So that's exactly what happened to me. During the pandemic, I found myself actually working longer hours remotely. But I think that may have just been a temporary adjustment. You know, anytime you try a new type of, I don't know, I mean, anytime you try something new, there's always going to be an adjustment process. But I think that as it becomes more normalized, like a hybrid work environment, I think people are just going to work the normal 8 hours a day, maybe a little bit more. Because the problem with me was my manager. So usually how it would work, and this is coming from somebody that was in tech sales or at the enterprise level, so selling enterprise software, enterprise hardware, things like that. My boss and the director would usually go home around, I don't know, 4:30. They would usually dip out of the office very early. And then, you know, we would kind of, you know, relax a little bit, sort of, you know, you can unbutton, you know, you could sort of take off your tie, relax, you know, you don't have to be so polished because the director, the senior manager's there. And then we would all just kind of go home at like, you know, 6 or 7. You know, I think the more successful account executives, they would stay to like 8, 9 sometimes. But the point was when they would head home, there was a break, right? They were either driving, so they can't email when they're driving. They can't text when they're on the trains. So the emails sort of stopped. But once the pandemic happened, those emails kept coming sometimes to 11 o'clock at night. Hey, we have this deck that we're presenting to a very important customer. Hey, Tom, we want you to have a second pair of eyes on the deck. Please fix the deck. And I get the email at 11 o'clock at night. Okay, well now I have to go fix the deck until 1 o'clock in the morning. So a lot of that stuff happened. But I think as we sort of go through and work out the kinks, you know, a lot of that stuff is going to go away. Because, I mean, to your point, when you're sitting at home, there's no break in the day to commute. The emails never stop because you're at the dinner table eating while you're messaging or emailing your employees. So, Somebody says, beautiful street, love it with the trees. Yeah, this is sort of like the, you can consider the NYU College Town, Thompson Street, West 3rd Street. Disney cast member says, Tom, I loved working from home for Alaska Airlines. The secret was I had a designated area for work and only went there to work. See, that is ideal, Disney. But for me, I had my apartment here in New York. It was like a box. It was probably 380 square feet. So it was sort of like my desk and then my bed. There was really no designated area for anything. Hey, Syrup, good to see you. I think I saw Ruby Falcone here. Good to see you, Ruby. So I think this is a card playing shop. You can go here play cards. Larry says, ask a young person trying to buy their first home in Kingston how their mental health is when they can't compete with 50 people bidding them out. Yeah, I mean, Larry, you make a good point, but I think a lot of that stuff is going to subside, to be honest. I think those days where you're going to have a massive bidding wars for homes, I think that's going to subside. So I would just hang in there. Usually when things are at their peak adversity, as I like to call it, that's usually when the trend is about to change. So I would just let everybody do the overbidding and put in offers over ask. I'd chill out here a minute. Because going back to our topic of discussion, what did we talk about on Friday? Okay, so what we talked about on Friday was the Federal Reserve Fed Chair Jerome Powell's speech at Jackson Hole. And he was very, very direct in talking to everybody, saying, look, we're not going to take our foot off of the gas here. We're going to continue to tighten monetary policy. We're going to continue to raise interest rates until we know that inflation is done and back down to our 2% target. And 1 month's data of a CPI moderating a little bit is not going to do it. It's not enough data for the Fed to pivot. So I think the overarching theme of the speech at Jackson Hole was there's going to be no pivot. And Fed Chair Jerome Powell was very, very clear and direct by saying, look, we need to get inflation under control. Price stability is the number one priority of the Federal Reserve. And as we try to achieve price stability, that in turn means that people and businesses are going to go through a pain of adversity. It's going to hurt. And I think Fed Chair Jerome Powell framed it perfectly. As a salesperson, I would have framed it exactly like that, because people can understand that, right? That's sort of that's telling the truth. When you tell everybody that inflation is transitory, that's not telling the truth. That's being deceptive. But I think the majority of Americans are rational and reasonable human beings, right? So by the Federal Reserve coming out and saying, listen, this has gotten out of hand, this needs to stop, we can get it under control, but I want to be upfront by saying businesses are going to suffer temporarily, consumers are going to suffer temporarily, but we need to go through short-term pain so we could bring back price stability, we can get inflation back to our 2% target, and the only way we're going to do that is by raising interest rates and going all in on QT, which is quantitative tightening, which is allowing that balance sheet to unwind. So a lot of people on Wall Street didn't like that speech. They think that Fed Chair Jerome Powell is tightening into recession. Obviously he is, but getting inflation under control is more important than supporting the equity market, in my opinion, for reasons we've talked about almost ad nauseum on the streams. So I think he did the right thing. So I give Fed Chair Jerome Powell 10 out of 10. I give him a 10 out of 10 on that speech.
Fine, I'll go.
May have been a little bit premature, right? I mean, but better late than never. So 10 out of 10. Hey, OT is here. Says, what's up, man? Good to see you, OT. Nirvana Fan 500 says, Tom, can phone repair shops when repairing your screen I lost your comment, man. I'm sorry about that. Hey, Lockjaw's here. Says, hope everybody is doing extremely well tonight. Good to see you, Lockjaw. What's next is so many of the streets have some sort of obstacle. Are they trying to make New York a non-driver city? Well, I think there's just a lot of construction. Hey, we have a viewer from Korea, says Tom. 안녕하세요. Welcome to all of our Korean viewers. 감사합니다. Thank you for joining the stream. Dan Zhang says, my parents exchanged as much of their Chinese yuan to US dollars when US dollars were their weakest. They are not traders, but damn, I'm proud of them. What a great currency trade. Dude, that is a great currency trade. Because the Dixie now is at near 20-year highs. And that's put severe pressure on emerging markets. Now, last week we did talk about emerging markets and how a lot of emerging markets are actually running out of their currency reserves, right? So countries around the world will actually have reserves of US dollars and other stronger currencies. And in order to keep their currency from tanking, they have to sell off some of their strategic reserves, and many of them are running out, but we've covered that. I think that may have been 2 weeks ago, but Dan, awesome trade on that, love that. Hey, John says, good to join the stream tonight, Tom. I do not see palm trees tonight. Yeah, John, very good observation. No palm trees. We are back in New York. Good to see you, John. Hopefully you're having a fantastic Monday so far. Angel Ortiz says, hello from Puerto Rico, watching the stream and remembering when I was over there for the September 11th Yankees and Mets game at Citi Field. Oh man, that must have been an amazing experience. Well, thank you for joining. I appreciate it. Sherry Rodrigo is here. Good to see you, Sherry. We are walking down West Broadway. I think we may walk down a little bit more, guys. We very seldom do we come down this way on the stream, so I think we'll walk down a little bit more. We'll bang a left over to Chinatown, or maybe we'll walk down Prince Street, perhaps. So you can see one of my favorite pieces of artwork here. Now, I actually wanted to get this particular piece of art, but it doesn't have Investors Business Daily on it. So if you look all the way in the back, it'll have Barron's. I think it has Financial Times, Wall Street Journal. The only one it doesn't have, that was weird. The only one it doesn't have is IBD. But that would have looked perfect in my office. And I'm not a big art guy. I don't spend money on art. But, I mean, that is just such an amazing piece. It fits very well. It would fit very well in the office. Anyway. The LT Prods is how much? Let's just say too much. And I don't spend money on art at all. I don't spend a lot of money. You guys know me. But I think as I get older, I think it's wise to at least invest in one type of nice piece, right? Christian says, hey Tom, those artworks are a scam. They use these art galleries to wash money. Kelly O'Donnell is here, says the city is working hard to reduce the amount of cars, increase bike lanes, and God willing to improve transit. Yeah, Kelly, I mean, well, they did a good thing on the Brooklyn Bridge. So on the Brooklyn Bridge, they moved all of the bikes off of the walking path and down into the street level, which is good, because that was definitely pandemonium. Yeah, Mike sees like the skateboard art seems right up your alley. It definitely does. Hey, Eric is here. Says hello, kind sir. Good to see you, Eric. We're gonna cross the street here. See, I like this particular neighborhood area in New York because usually after right around, I don't know, I'd say 6:37, it's completely dead here. It's actually kind of nice, very quiet. Looks like a lot of people are moving in on moving day. Colleen T says, yes, Tom, 100% agree. Yeah, I think that was a good thing that the city did, is to move the bike lanes off of the walking bridge up there, or the walking path up there. I think that was a good thing. All right, let's go down 2 more, and then we will make a left, and then we'll walk back around and go up. Another thing that I wanted to mention, everybody, obviously last week on the stream, we did an in-depth deep dive into Palo Alto Networks. Okay, so we're not going to talk about Palo Alto Networks, but I think this industry theme is very important to pay attention to. That's the World Trade Center in the background here. So this week on Wall Street, we're going to be hearing from some very, very notable cybersecurity companies, many of which we talk about all the time on the stream. So one in particular that I'm going to keep my eyes on is a company called Okta, ticker symbol OKTA. So they specialize in a very, very specific type of cybersecurity. And that cybersecurity is called IAM cybersecurity. So that acronym stands for Identity and Access Management. So Okta will report, I think they're reporting on Thursday. I think it may either be Tuesday or Thursday. No, it's actually Wednesday. It's the 31st, because it's the last. They report on the last day of the month. So we need to watch for that. Now, the reason why I'm going to watch Okta is because within their specific niche, if we remember correctly, back to the stream that we did about private equity firm Thoma Bravo, right? So Thoma Bravo is a very, very successful private equity firm founded by Puerto Rican multi-billionaire Orlando Bravo. I actually had the pleasure of meeting Orlando Bravo at the Bitcoin conference. Very nice guy, super sharp. My first impression of him was a sharp business guy. And they actually acquired or took private Ping Identity, which is another company that specializes in identity and access management cybersecurity. So they were public under the ticker symbol PING. And it's funny because they were actually taken public by a private equity firm called Vista Equity Partners, and now they are taken private by another private equity firm. Funny enough. So we got to watch out for that. Beautiful view, everybody, of the One World Trade Center. I give that a 9.3 out of 10. What do you guys think? Give it a 9.3. So this is the corner of West Broadway and Spring Street. Horatio Snipes says that's a 10. Okay, I respect it. McGillis says, Tom, thanks for the free advice you give. It's very valuable. Yeah, I appreciate it. So when I talk about these particular companies, it's not to say that you should buy them. It's what I really try to do and try to accomplish on these streams is to get people to try to understand how to develop an investing thesis, right? And what we talk about all the time is look for emerging industry trends or themes. So I think cybersecurity, we'll walk away because the guy is blasting the Jay-Z music, even though we love Jay-Z, but I've been getting a lot of, even though I don't mind copyright strikes, because they don't really affect the channel, I got a particular copyright strike that did affect the channel, so I think we have to be more cognizant of the copyright. Anyway, I think it's more along the lines to understand how to identify an investing thesis by starting from the top down and then bottom up, right? So if we think about what are the sectors of the economy that we think are going to grow the most over the next 5 to 10 years, I think one of those sectors is cybersecurity. You know, as we did our cybersecurity stream, I talked about how I usually categorize particular products into 2 distinct categories. Now, does anybody remember what those 2 distinct categories were? Well, if you don't, we'll quickly review it on the stream. It's no big deal. Number 1 is a must-have product, and number 2 is a nice-to-have product. But I think what's interesting about cybersecurity is I believe, my thesis is it's branching out and creating a third distinct category, and that's called a requirement. So, as we know, these egregious cybersecurity hacks and attacks, all of these Emotet attacks and malicious malware, it's not going to stop. It's actually going to grow exponentially over the coming years. Oh, check out this shot right here. You can see the One Vanderbilt building all the way in the distance. That's a really nice shot. I'd stay here longer, but I don't want to be in the middle of the street, get knocked off. So I think down the line, you're going to start to see cybersecurity be a requirement for anybody to operate a business. Because if you don't have a cybersecurity strategy or an implementation plan for your particular business, I think the regulators are actually going to come for you. And when the regulators step in there and say, hey, if you're operating a home healthcare organization and you don't have endpoint security management for your home health aides, you're going to get fined X amount. Or if you don't have this particular cybersecurity software, now you have to get cybersecurity insurance, and it's going to open up a whole industry there. Now, again, that's speculation, but from my experience selling these particular solutions in the industry, anytime I talk to a CTO of a major company, pretty much their number one priority behind employee retention, employee experience, customer satisfaction is cybersecurity in almost every single organization. And this isn't only exclusive to healthcare. If you look at the SLED environment, so SLED, if you're a salesperson selling into the SLED, it's state and local governments and education. They're going to have to increase their cybersecurity spending. Look at all the cybersecurity attacks or the cyber hacks that we've had over the past couple of years, like with SolarWinds in the pipeline, where they were actually able to shut down the pipeline. So, I don't know, I think there's going to be winners in each specific industry, but I think for right now, Palo Alto Networks is probably the leader. But we're going to hear from CrowdStrike, ticker symbol CRWD, which is a fantastic cybersecurity company, Okta, and I believe we already heard from Zscaler. That I'm not sure. I'll have to go back and check. Mark Richardson, I appreciate the comment, but we just can't have any cursing or anything in the chat. YouTube bans us and stuff, so. The LT products of cybersecurity will become as common as door locks, just way more expensive and complex. I agree. I definitely agree with you. Check out these original cobblestone streets here, beautiful. Charles Collins in actions is the real important thing that happened Friday. Was the AG of North Dakota announced an investigation on Bill Gates for illegal acquisition of farmland. Interesting. Unknown Rider guy says, can you do Coney Island one day? Perhaps. We may get to Coney Island. Usually we do these streams after work, so usually I work in Manhattan. So, Austin City Limits, I think we're going to have to tap you on the shoulder here, my friend, and make you a mod, because got a lot of crazies in the chat tonight, I guess. Points Traveler, I understand, but please don't, put that stuff in the chat, please. Yeah, Willie's like VPNs also, agreed. Let me, wow, check these out. Hey, David's like, Tom, do you do any day streams? I can't really do any day streams because, I'm usually working during the day, but good to see you, Randall. Hey, British Gray is here. Good to see you, British Gray. Thank you for joining. Hope you're well. But if you guys are enjoying the live stream so far, feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. We usually go live about 5 days per week between New York City and Miami. We'd love to have you guys come along. MDHS is which cheaper apartment do you recommend for first time visiting New York City that is not far from the main attractions of the city? So if you want to just go based upon affordability, Queens I think is the most affordable borough. That's going to be the most livable for you, I think. So some parts of Queens are really, really nice. Trains, you have the 7 train, many other trains going into the city. So I would recommend Queens. If you are a little bit price sensitive, you think Manhattan is a little bit too expensive, because I think the average rent now in Manhattan is over $5,000, but that's a little bit misleading, and we've talked about why. But check out the cobblestone streets here. These are some of my favorite streets in all New York City. Hey, Kelly O'Donnell says, I live in Queens. Awesome, Kelly. Christian says, I've been looking a lot at Flushing, Queens. Flushing is very nice. I used to frequent Flushing a lot after work. One of my old coworkers, we were both in sales, both major account executives, and after work we would go to Flushing. My friend was Taiwanese, so he would always take me to the awesome places to get food in the massive Chinatown there. Not many people know that, but Flushing, Queens is actually a bigger Chinatown than the one we have here in Manhattan. But guys, check this out. This is what I really like about Soho. The fire escapes look beautiful. Could you imagine living in one of these lofts here? I mean, this is really, really expensive real estate here, but man, this is a dream to live down here. Hey, Manthony 18. This is just joined the stream. Looks like Soho. Good to see you, Manthony. You are correct. Very quiet, very nice. Looks like we have some people doing some, this reminds me back in the day. I think I told you guys, I used to work at Express, which was a clothing store in Times Square. And this is exactly what we used to do at 2 o'clock in the morning right here. The truck would pull up. You would have the security guard outside, and then I would be bringing in the boxes and doing all like the floor plan. Yeah, my shift was from 9 o'clock at night until 3 o'clock in the morning. It was horrible. But yeah. So this is Green Street, everybody, for those of you who are asking. This is Green Street on the corner of Spring Street. We're actually going to be making a right, and then we're going to make a left and head uptown. Mike C, what's up? Good to see you. Yeah, Christian Wilson, I know. Zebatana, good to see you. Cynthia Beal, welcome. So if we talk about, obviously one of the industry themes we spoke about was cybersecurity. And here we are, Mercer Street. Another industry theme that I'm very bullish on over the next 5 to 10 years is semiconductors. So we are going to be hearing from Broadcom on the 1st of the month. So September 1st, can't believe it's already September 1st. Already into September, which is ridiculous. And we will also be hearing from the Institute for Supply Management when they publish their PMI numbers. So we're going to have a whole stream dedicated to that. But check this out. So if you look all the way in the distance, this teeny building right here, not so teeny in person, but all the way from Soho, it's quite teeny, is the Chrysler Building. That's actually the very, very top of the Chrysler Building. Hey, Valerie Love says it's good to have live stream while walking through the city. Yeah, we got to get the, I think tomorrow we'll turn back on the subscribers only mode. Hey, sunshine after rain, good to see you. Hopefully you had a fantastic night. All right, now we've reached Broadway. We will make a left and head back uptown. Hey, Mark is here. So just found your channel. I'm from San Francisco. Hey, love San Francisco. But living in Los Angeles area, I've made a hobby out of investing over the past few years and love New York. What a find. Mike, welcome to the show. We appreciate you. And thank you for being here, Mike. So Mike, I actually have a question for you because I'm not sure if you're very active on Twitter. So I use Twitter, mostly financial Twitter, FinTwit. And there's a big debate that was going on today from some of my real estate buddies as it relates to San Francisco. So Mike, since you're there, can you give us an unbiased scoop? Totally unbiased, if you may. Is San Francisco actually a ghost town, or is that a little bit overstated and maybe has a twist of political bias? Specifically downtown San Francisco, because supposedly there's over 2 million square feet of vacant office space. And it's very interesting to see that commercial real estate is taking a big hit in San Francisco, but it's not taking that big of a hit in New York. And here's why I think, if I had to guess. I think the reason why is because New York has more diversity in relation to the industries in which they serve. So San Francisco is really, really big in tech, but so is New York. But New York also has Wall Street, and New York also has many insurance companies and healthcare. I think San Francisco is just very, very one-sided and directed towards tech. And as everybody works remotely and works from home, why do you need all that big office space? So has anybody in San Francisco been seeing the same thing? Is the city actually dead? I can't confirm or deny that because I'm not there, but what do you guys think? Vinny says, Tom, didn't a lot of the tech move to Austin from San Francisco? A lot of it did. A lot of it did, but you know, I guess you could say that really about any state too. OT says, Tom, San Francisco is gone. Is it it's too expensive? Brian says, hey, Tom, did you talk? Oh, no, I have to do that. You're right. Booknerd92 says, how do you get used to the smell over time? Taxi Cab says, is anybody looking for a daytime live stream? Walking Commuter is the one to follow. I agree. I second that. I watch his live streams all the time. Mike Skate TV, good to see you. Mike says it's quite a bit overstated for the most part. Little Italy and the Marina District are beautiful and the restaurants are great. The area around the Giants and Warriors stadiums are up and coming. Okay, understood. I just wanted to get some insight there because it's easy to get caught in the Twitter algorithm and it just feeds you all the stuff that you want to hear. Hey, Victor D says, Tom, San Francisco isn't super dead, but I feel a lot of people just don't like San Francisco culture right now, especially if you are looking for big urban experience. Ah, understand. Paul says, my friends say the homelessness is unbelievable in San Francisco. Yeah, I think it's bad in all major cities, though, to be honest. I think it's bad in all major cities. Okay, so Mike says San Francisco downtown foot traffic is bad for sure, or it's down. Okay. Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I could think of is that San Francisco is very, very geared towards only tech. right? You know, you have Salesforce Tower, you have Mark Benioff there, all these startups, a lot of startup cultures. But now, working remote, you can pretty much do that anywhere. But here in New York, you know, you have a big healthcare presence, you have a big insurance presence, you have, you know, Wall Street is here, you know, a lot of the investment banks. Not to say that there's not that in San Francisco, but it's just a lot more present here, so. All right, so this is Broadway and West Houston Street. We are across the street from the Adidas store. So as we wait for the red light, everybody, I wanted to read you something interesting that was in Barron's this week. And if we look back through historical data, September is actually usually the worst month in terms of stock performance. So the stock market's worst month, September, will soon be upon us. The S&P 500 index has averaged a 1% loss in September dating back to 1928. The Dow Jones Industrial Average has notched a similar September loss going back to 1896. It's clearly a bad month for both indices. Last year, stocks fell 4.8% in September, and who can forget about Lehman Brothers, as well as September 11th. Much debate has gone into explaining the September effect. More tangible are troubling signs for this September. Indices are up by double digits in percentage terms since their 2022 lows in mid-June, lifted by cooling inflation and cautious Federal Reserve. But the probability of the 3/4 point interest rate hike in September has risen, with a 0.5 point raise more than likely. So what does that mean? So let's just sum that up. Usually September is a horrible market for the stock market anyway, and it could get a lot worse this September because Fed Chair Jerome Powell at his Jackson Hole speech said that he's not going to take the foot off the gas as it relates to raising interest rates, unwinding that massive balance sheet, and going along with quantitative tightening. So, is history probably going to repeat itself in September? Are we going to have a broader pullback in the indices in September? I think we probably will, but I don't think it's going to be Armageddon. I mean, even if we do make a new low for all the major indices, if we look back throughout history, after the midterm elections, that is usually when stock market performance actually picks up. And we've talked about this multiple times on the stream, and this research actually comes out of FundStrat, which is a market research firm based here in New York. Tom Lee is the founder, who is always on CNBC, Bloomberg. He's a great follow on Twitter, by the way. And he says if you look back throughout history, during a midterm election cycle, stocks are almost always down to flat. And that's exactly what we've seen so far. However, as midterm elections roll by and they are in the rearview mirror, stock market performance actually tends to be quite positive. Now, we've talked about why this may be, and I believe it's because Wall Street does not like uncertainty. So they don't know who's going to take control of both houses of Congress. Is it going to be the Democrats? Is it going to be Republicans? Is it going to be split? You know, what new rules, regulations, or laws going to be put in place once midterms have rolled around and we've gone through all of that mess? Well, now capital allocators can make informed decisions about where to best place their bets. So, once again, I'll reiterate, we are potentially coming up into a Goldilocks scenario for the stock market. Now, before I say this, please don't get political in the chat. If you're a Democrat, you're more than welcome here. I respect you. If you're a Republican, you're more than welcome here. I respect you. I hate the political discussion and all the fighting in the chat. So please, let's not do that. However, if you look back throughout history, this is one of the best coffee places in New York, by the way. Gasoline Alley Coffee, 10 out of 10. Please visit it. If you look back throughout history, the years where the stock market performs best is when we have a Democrat as a president. So we got Joe Biden, whether you like him or not. So that's one check mark there. But the second stipulation for better than normal stock market returns is to have both houses of Congress being controlled by the Republicans. And that is very, very possible that may happen after midterms. So, based upon an investing perspective alone, not to get political, we could very well have the best scenario setting up for the stock market if Republicans control both houses of Congress. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. Just as a market analyst, I'm just saying we need to be aware of that, right? And I think for obvious reasons, if the Republicans have control of both houses of Congress and we have a Democrat as a president, well, then nothing gets done. When nothing gets done, that's good for Wall Street, that's good for corporate profits. Whether you like it or not, that's the truth. So I think we need to be cognizant of that, and we will discuss that further. Hey, Mike, Skate TV, good to see you. I'll give you guys one more shot of downtown. It's one of my favorite parts. What's next is Tom. I agree with that statement. MDHS says, which crypto are you keeping an eye on right now? If you are even looking into cryptos. Yeah, so I have a very, very strong viewpoint on the cryptocurrency markets in general. I think since we have a lot of new people in the chat, I'll give that opinion again. So I am very, very disengaged in a lot of the altcoin market. Okay, so a lot of the alternative coins. So anything besides Bitcoin. I do own a little bit of Ethereum, but here's why. Based upon my very, very little understanding of securities analysis or securities law, I should say, it is a very big possibility that a lot of these altcoins are going to be deemed securities. And if they are, you do not want to be holding them. So I think until we have more regulatory clarity from Gary Gensler at the SEC, I would not be dabbling in the alternative or altcoin market. Again, that's just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. I could be totally wrong, but that's just my opinion. So I think the risk reward there is a little bit too on the risk side for the potential upside. I think the market overall is very fraught with fraud for obvious reasons, because a lot of these exchanges are not regulated and the like. However, here's the good news. The good news is that I've always been a raging bull on Bitcoin, Ethereum a little bit, but in order for real adoption here, there needs to be two things that need to happen, okay? Number one is there needs to be regulatory clarity from the SEC. So Gary Gensler needs to come out here and say, are these things securities or are they not? Can sovereign wealth funds or can pension funds hold them or can't they, right? And once you have regulatory clarity, then legacy, and I use legacy loosely, legacy financial institutions, we'll wait for this guy to pass. So once you have regulatory clarity, legacy financial institutions like Fidelity, like BlackRock and the like will start to get into the space, and you can see them already getting involved here, right? Like you have Fidelity Digital Assets, you have BlackRock making a partnership with Coinbase to provide custodial services for their high net worth individual clients, which is huge because BlackRock is the largest asset manager by assets or total AUM. But if you want the big money, like the sovereign wealth funds, to get involved, you need to have regulatory clarity. That's number one. And number two is you need to see a lot of these fraudsters go away here. Because for a big institution to take it seriously, there can't be any of these Terra Luna pump and dumps. There can't be any more of these Ponzi-like schemes. That has to go away, and it's going to get washed out. And a lot of it is getting washed out. Like we saw Three Arrows Capital go under, even after capital injections of other firms. A lot of their existing assets will probably get liquidated or acquired by other hedge funds. But look, I think it's a work in progress. But again, this is a very opinionated statement. So anytime I make a very opinionated statement, I like to tell you guys that. So yes, I'm a bull. I'm bullish over the long term on cryptocurrencies, but I think there's a long way to go in terms of regulation here. A long, long way to go. Hey, Joan is here. Welcome, Joan. Good to see you. But if you guys want to know more about my thoughts on the overall market and the like, if you scan the QR code on your screen, I write a free investing newsletter where I share my thoughts not only on the US equity market, but emerging markets, fixed income, real estate. So if you want to be a part of it, it's a free way to support the stream. I'll send it to your inbox, usually every other Tuesday after the market closes. If you scan the QR code on your screen, just punch in your email, and you'll be signed up to receive it for free. Although, here's what I'd like to say. We may be migrating to Substack. So right now we do Review, which was acquired by Twitter. But a lot of the emails are going to people's spam folders, and I think as we migrate to Substack, that will clear up a lot of those technical difficulties. So scan the QR code, punch in your email, everybody, and I will send it to your email, the Behind the Street newsletter. Hey, Nick is here. Good to see you. Hey, photos from around New York. How did I miss you, dude? Good to see you. Photos. I got to ask you a question. I was telling everybody in the chat earlier. I said that the moment I got, well, let me rephrase that. Once the sun set in New York City, when I stepped outside from the office, I could smell the fall in the air. Like, you know how you could smell that fall smell? You're like, yeah, the season's gonna change, winter's coming. I think tonight was the first night I've experienced that. Tonight was the first night. Do you agree? Photos, what is your take on that? So now we are across the street or adjacent 51 Astor Place. This is actually where the Ibm Watson Building is. Now, I interviewed with Ibm Watson in their healthcare unit. I'm glad I didn't get the job because they sold that particular piece of the business off to PwC or PricewaterhouseCoopers. And I think they laid off a lot of people in the department. So, but they are right across the street. Victor D says, is this pre-recorded? It may be, Victor. Good to see you. Guys, the only thing I would ask is let's not have discussions about Trump and all that stuff in the chat. Just because with the YouTube algorithm, it breeds a certain type of people that come here and they post like spam links about buying Bitcoin and like pornographic sites. It screws up the stream. So let's just keep the political stuff to a low. I've noticed a correlation between a lot of bots and anytime people fight about politics, specifically like if you're a Trump or a Biden supporter. I don't really care if you're a Trump supporter or a Biden supporter or not. I love you all equal. But we've been having big problems on the stream with these spam bots that come in here and hammer the chat. Victor D says, my God, my man is doing a whole radio show, maintaining that voice while walking. Thank you, Victor. So everybody, we are gonna head back uptown now. I think let's try to make it all the way up to 57th Street Billionaires Row. We'll try to make it up that far tonight. I'm not sure if the battery is gonna conk out or not, but we'll try, we'll see. Hey Jimmy, what's up? Says Tom, do you plan to do some daytime walking while you're back in your stomping ground, maybe the Lower East Side? So probably not, just so I know we have a lot of new people. These streams will always be at 8:30 Eastern time, unfortunately, because during the entire day I have to work. So usually right when I get off of work, I jump on the stream. Maybe we'll try to do a daytime stream if it's a Saturday or a Sunday, but usually Monday through Friday, I'm sort of booked out, and unfortunately, I got to do the day job. DJ Brandywine Gaming, I understand your concern. I understand, I know. But let's just chill on the political, Biden sucks, Trump sucks. We're just trying to chill. We're just trying to hang out. I understand your frustration and your concern. I get it. Hey, Bob's in the chat. What's up, Bob? Dusty Cole, good to see you guys. Star Fox is like 432 is off limits tonight. Star Fox, welcome, my friend. Happy Monday to you. Good to see you. Biz says, hey Tom, owning a full Bitcoin will be like owning a block in Manhattan in the future. I never plan to sell. Biz, I tend to agree with you, maybe not as that high of owning a whole block in Manhattan, but I agree with you. I agree with you on that. And, whenever I talk about specific investments that I own on the channel, I like to make very clear, just because I own something doesn't mean you should, okay? I could be totally wrong and the investments that I have could go to zero. So I think the reason why we talk about these things on the stream, very seldom do we talk about specific individual investments. Usually, most of the time, we keep it macro level and then whittle down into industry level. But yeah, just because we're talking about something that doesn't mean that you should go out and buy it. But yeah, over the long run, I'm very, very bullish on Bitcoin, and I agree with you. Hey, Brandon is here. Good to see you, Brandon Wong. Welcome. Victor Reyes. Hey, Kurt Flirt. Says, hey, Tom, I want to buy more stocks, but I don't think I will, unfortunately. Good to see you, Kurt. Here, let's take one pass. Let's take one pass by Strand Bookstore. Oh, everybody, you're going to be very, very pleased tonight when I tell you this. So the book, here, I'm going to plug a book for a minute since we're outside of a bookstore, but I think it's going to help a lot of people. I usually like to give book recommendations only when I think it is best in class. So I'm rereading a particular book called The Life Cycle Trade. Now, if anybody's interested in understanding to its core what an IPO is, or initial public offering, how they trade, I think you got to read this book. So on other streams, we were going over this, but I actually brought it tonight and I wanted to share it with you guys. So this book is by Kathy Donnelly and Eve Bobach. So this particular book is called The Life Cycle Trade by Kathy Donnelly and Eve Bobach. So it's $20. I think you guys should pick it up. I mean, maybe there's free PDFs online, but Eve Bobach, she's a fantastic, fantastic powerhouse on Wall Street, and I'll tell you why. So Eve used to work for the Federal Reserve, and then after working for the Federal Reserve, she now is a sales trader, equity sales and trading, I think a director level at Ropel Capital Management. And she is one of the most well put together in terms of her thesis building expertise that I've ever seen. And Ropel Capital Management is led by a person that I very, very much respect on Wall Street, Jim Ropel. Probably one of the best can-slim hedge fund managers, growth stock hedge fund managers out there right now. If you want to check out Jim, you could just type in on YouTube, Jim Ropel interviews, and I would consume everything. I would consume every interview that he's done. So oftentimes we'll talk about initial public offerings on the stream, why their price action is so volatile when they first come on the market. And many people will say, oh, it's the first day of IPO, should I buy the particular stock? Well, if you read this book, you'll get a more firm understanding of what an IPO actually is and how they usually tend to trade on their first year of becoming publicly traded companies. So at its core, an initial public offering is literally the transfer of ownership from the private market to the public market. So what does that mean? Well, that could include anything from a private equity firm, venture capitalists, even founders of the company. It's the transfer of that ownership or the shares of that particular company to the public market. So you could think about, the hedge funds. You could think about individual retail investors like you and me, pension funds. So usually what happens when a particular stock or company goes public is it goes through something called an institutional due diligence phase, okay? Now, when a company goes public, they give a whole pitch deck, say, we grow at a CAGR of 25%, which is compounded annualized growth rate, or whatever the numbers they tell you. Well, a lot of the times those numbers could be quite exaggerated between me and you. So what a lot of analysts will do, or what a lot of the investment banks or financial firms on Wall Street will do, is they will assign a specific analyst to cover that particular stock. And it usually takes about 4 to 9 earnings reports to funnel through before institutions start to make really, really big, sizable investments. And the reason for this is because if a company continues to meet analysts' expectations on Wall Street, which means, let's say if Wall Street analysts are predicting that company XYZ will report $2 of EPS on $1 billion worth of top line, and that particular company reports $2.25 on the bottom line and 1.5 on the top line, well, that's called a beat quarter. So analysts want to make sure that that particular company is not only beating Wall Street expectations, but then raising forward guidance. And usually if you have a trend of a new IPO that meets Wall Street expectations or even exceeds it 6 to 9 quarters in a row, well, that stock will probably go up about 300% over 2 years. And essentially what I'm trying to get at is be very, very careful about buying a new issue or an IPO within the first year of it becoming public, because it's going to trade very, very volatile, and it will probably trade down because founders are selling off, there's a lot of supply coming onto the market, and there needs to be institutions with the composite operators to get in there and absorb a lot of that supply. Okay, and they're not going to go in there and absorb a lot of that supply if the company is missing expectations on both earnings and sales. So if you want to learn more and into the granular detail, I believe this particular book, The Life Cycle Trade, went back all the way to 1970 and studied every single IPO that ever came onto the market on the stock exchange. They looked at the specific characteristics that make those stocks go up an exponential amount. Is it return on equity? Is it pre-tax, after-tax margins? What is the magic elixir? They'll tell you in the book. Check it out. Hey, June is here. What's up? June, long time no see. Says, I don't see much traffic here. Yeah, so Union Square, there's no car traffic allowed here. This is a fantastic Korean barbecue restaurant for anybody who's interested in Korean food. It's called Barn Jew. It's fantastic. Dominique, welcome. Hey, Disney Matt. Good to see you, Disney Matt. DJ Brandywine Gaming says, don't talk about New York City if you're not going to talk about the real issues, you piece of garbage. Appreciate that, DJ Brandywine. Nancy is here, says, hey, welcome. Austin City Limits says the stream is clear. Thank you, thank you. Stoy Ramos is joining us. Welcome. L Twiz says, man, I miss being in New York City. Well, come on down, come back. There's always time for you to check it out. Oh my gosh, GX72 says, how is Joe's Pizza? GX72, I never got a chance to go to Joe's. I was so crazy busy. When I did the stream Saturday night in Miami, I was so busy that I didn't have time to even leave my house. I was doing so much stuff around the house that I never got to go to Wynwood. So maybe next time we're back in Miami in a week or so, we'll have to stream it. So maybe it'll be as good as the Joe's in New York. You never know. Myra King says, Tom, what is the best pizza spot in New York? In my opinion, it's actually going to have to go to Brooklyn. It's called Difara. So Difara. It's in Brooklyn, New York. It's fantastic. I used to frequent there a lot when I used to visit some of my friends that went to Brooklyn College back in the day. Hey, Mike says, I miss New York City as well. My grandma has never been. Wow. Hoping to plan a trip with her. That would be awesome, dude. I think she would enjoy that. I think she'd like that. Lockjaw, welcome. So if we had to guess, everybody, if we had to guess, Friday is going to be the big day, okay? September 2nd, that is when the Bureau of Labor Statistics releases the jobs report for August. So we're going to get non-farm payroll numbers. So if you had to guess, where do you think we're going to come in? Because if we look back to last month, the economy added about 528,000 jobs, which was an absolute screamer of a report, smashing expectations. Do we think we're going to have a two-peat or a repeat of what of the big beat? Well, many economists on Wall Street are expecting just over 250,000 jobs added to the non-farm payrolls. Let's just call it 270,000. You guys think we're going to come in hot? We're going to come in low? Or do you think we're going to hit the nail on the head? And here's the reason why that's important. Okay, and we'll review it one more time. And I think the reason why it's important to review it one more time is because of the old saying on Wall Street, don't fight the Fed. Okay? Stanley Druckenmiller, Paul Tudor Jones, Ray Dalio. The number one thing they say is, look, if the Federal Reserve is tightening, stocks are going to have a really, really hard time swimming upstream. So Jackson Hole, the Fed did a big speech at Jackson Hole. Fed Chair Jerome Powell made it very, very clear that they are going to continue to tighten or remove liquidity from the system, go with QT and increase interest rates. And if they are data dependent, like Fed Chair Jerome Powell said, and we continue to get hotter and hotter non-farm payroll prints, well, the good news is the U.S. economy is adding jobs, but that's actually bad news for the market because that means Fed Chair Jerome Powell will not be satisfied and he'll have to continue to tighten monetary policy further, which usually leads to equity declines. Wow, check out that view of the empire. That's a 10 out of 10 right there. So since we have a lot of new people, usually what happens, right, not all the time, and a lot of analysts on Wall Street, a lot of portfolio managers that I talk to, they say the market could have already discounted all of these rate hikes, right? We saw massive, massive PE compression, valuation compression. So usually if we're talking about like large tech stocks, especially the software as a service or the SaaS stocks, the reason why those stocks tend to get clocked as interest rates go up is because a lot of these tech companies have earnings that are projected far out into the future, okay, as opposed to, you know, maybe some of the more well-established companies that have their earnings that are right now, here and now. A lot of the tech or the SaaS companies are all top-line revenue growth, right? They do not focus on profitability they want to acquire as many customers as they can, and then maybe, in the next fiscal year they'll be profitable. So as interest rates go up, those future earnings now have less value in today's dollars because rates are going up. So as we've been in this environment of artificially low interest rates, as the Federal Reserve has been keeping rates suppressed, a lot of these tech companies have gone through a ridiculous multiple expansion, right? So even if they have a little bit of profitability, they trade for ridiculous time sales, 10x sales, multiples of earnings, right? So as we go back to a normalized rate environment, those valuations are going to compress, because as you're running your discounted cash flow models, as these analysts are, modeling these particular companies, you have to add the discount rate. And as your discount rate goes up, valuations have to come down. But, oh, this guy looks like he's shooting something. Those photos look like it's going to come out really good. I think he has one of those DSLR cameras. Sometimes I look at those photos on Twitter. But just be cognizant of that, everybody. But also understand that it's very possible that the market has already done a lot of the work for the Fed, and valuations have come down quite a bit, and earnings actually weren't that bad. Hey, Kay Williams is here. Good to see you, Kay. Thank you for joining. Kimberly M says, I'm glad I found you. Well, thank you for being here, Kimberly. It is a pleasure. We are standing right across the street from the very famous Flatiron Building in New York City. Yeah, Connor's like only 50 plus more blocks to Billionaires Row. That's so true. Kimberly M says, yep, macroeconomics 202 flashbacks. That's funny. But if you guys are enjoying the stream tonight, feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe if you are new. We are also going to get back on track, everybody, to writing our Behind the Street newsletter, which is a free investing newsletter that I write for everybody, usually every other Tuesday after the market closes. We cover everything from the US equity markets to emerging markets. We talk about fixed income, we talk about real estate. So if you want to know my thoughts every other week, if you scan the QR code on your screen, just punch in your email, you'll receive the free newsletter. It's an interesting, fun way to support the stream, and it's completely free. Hey, Nouveau, I never know how to pronounce your name. I'm just going to call you N. So N, good to see you as always. Thank you for being here. Felipe Gonzalez says, hello, I'm Felipe. Greetings from Havana, Cuba. Hey, that's awesome, dude. Good to see you, Felipe. Says, I have friends at Trinity Wall Street Church. That is awesome. I was just reading an article in the Wall Street Journal about, because I actually just recently moved to Miami, Florida, and I believe the Miami-Dade County has the largest population of Cuban immigrants anywhere in the United States. And there's actually an even bigger wave of Cuban immigrants making their way to the United States right now due to some unfortunate events that are going on in Cuba. So really happy they're coming here. Really happy they are finding their way to Miami. So loving that. Yeah, Dusty Cole's like, I love macro in college. Just Barry says, I thoroughly enjoy your voice. I appreciate that, Barry. Thank you. I enjoy you being here on the stream. Thanks for joining. Okay, I think tonight, everybody, we're going to walk up Broadway. We could walk up Fifth Avenue, but I think we're going to save Fifth Avenue for tomorrow, because tomorrow I'm going to be more uptown. Today I was actually working from 28th Street out of the WeWork there. But tomorrow we're going to do this. We're going to start the stream uptown. Well, in the 50s, I'd say. So we'll walk up Broadway for tonight. We're going to see some good views of the Empire State Building. Hey, Andy is here. Oh, we got these spam bots. Let me try to knock some of those guys out. You know, this particular place is always packed. Doesn't matter what time of day it is. Doesn't matter if it's almost 10 o'clock at night. This gelato place is always packed. Crazy. All right, let's take a quick vote in the chat because I think we've covered a lot tonight. We've been covering a lot of concepts, so let's take a little bit of a break. Do you guys agree with all of the outdoor dining space that the city has brought about? Now, Broadway, you used to have cars coming whizzing down the street at all times, but I actually think I like this better. I think I like when the streets are closed down and people can enjoy eating outside. I think it brings about a more European vibe to the city. Do you guys agree? So many people complain, but I think this just is invaluable to the city. This is fantastic. You can come out here, you can eat, you can hang out almost until midnight. I think I like it way better than the cars. Hey, Carlos is here. What's up? Yeah, Kurt says I like some of it. It depends on the street though, maybe not all of them. I agree. Sean is here, says I totally agree. Welcome, Sean. I'm always very cognizant whenever these guys roll around. Hey, 48, welcome. 48 is joining us from New Zealand. Victor D's like, if it's empty, it's sad, but if it's lively like this, it's worth it. I agree. Especially as we emerge from the pandemic, I think it's nice to have a place where people can just come outside and hang out. I think the city's been missing a lot of that as of late, unfortunately. But now things are starting to come back, which is good. Now, I think this is like some vegan hamburger place. So the good news is, if you guys remember, every time we would do these streams, even just 6 months ago, almost every single storefront here was closed up and abandoned, almost every single one of them. But now, almost every single storefront either has something filled or something is coming in. So that is definitely good. This place used to be a ghost town, Broadway, between 26th and 34th. There was nobody. Hey, Jay Laura says hello from Argentina. Welcome to all of our Argentinian viewers. Mike is like, New York City vibe is unbeatable. Agreed. Oh yeah, so Mike, that's right. You just found the stream tonight. So we usually stream between New York and Miami. I think you're gonna like the Miami streams too. It's different. Miami is very different type of feel. However, the Brickell area of Miami is considered the Little Manhattan. And there's going to be even more stuff that's developed there. You know, a lot of major financial companies are starting to move to Miami. So Citadel Securities, which is one of the quantitative or quant shops on Wall Street, they've actually announced that they are moving from their main headquarters, their very iconic headquarters in Chicago, Illinois, to Miami, Florida. So in the 200 Southeast Financial Center, they actually have their satellite office. So we were actually able to see some of the Citadel office WeWork style offices. Hey, Connor says, I'm going to Miami in November. That's probably right around the best time or the time you should go. So, Connor, I'm not sure if you like humidity or you like it hot. I'm not sure what your preference is, but Right now in Miami, I would say in August, if you do not like the heat and you do not like the humidity, do not go to Miami, Florida in August. Do not go to Miami, Florida in August if you don't like the humidity. If you love it, then by all means. Usually after September, I would say early October all the way until I would say probably about May, it's actually quite nice. It's not humid, it's very moderate temperatures. It's really nice. This is a new Greek restaurant, I believe, that opened. Yeah, a lot of people are like, I like the heat, just not the humidity. So if you're in downtown Miami, like the city or Brickell, that's going to be really humid. However, if you're by the water, it's actually pretty nice all year round. So this restaurant, you could sit right at the bar there and look at this beautiful view of the Empire State Building. Absolutely fantastic. You know, I think during this time when I'm in New York, I'm gonna try that restaurant out, everybody. Maybe I'll take a client, I'll try to tee something up. And I'll let you guys know how it is, because the inside looks awesome. Inside looks very, very unique.
Interesting to see because
GX72 says, I love Greek food. So, my grandmother always says the only people who cook better than the Italians are the Greeks. Now, I know that's a very controversial statement. I could say that because my family is very, very Italian. So my family is from New York, Irish Italians. But that's what they say. Supposedly the Greeks are better at cooking than the Italians. So this used to be all under scaffolding. They took down all of this scaffolding now. And now we can see a beautiful view of the Empire State Building for once. What do you guys think? I think this is like a 9.6 on the view of the Empire. 9.6, not bad. Now that the scaffolding is down, it looks beautiful. Brian is like, Tom, your stream is a preview of my upcoming trip to New York. Love that. Dan Zhang says, hey Tom, have you ever thought about doing a stream in Flushing? It could be a good food stream. So it definitely probably will be. The only thing is I get off of work and then I jump right into the streams, and I work in Manhattan. So maybe we'll have to set aside a weekend to stream in Flushing or something like that. But Dan, Flushing is one of my favorite places. I think I told you before, my old coworker, he's still a really good, one of my best friends still to this day. He would take me to all his favorite spots in Flushing. So my friend, he's in his late 50s now. His family was one of the original Asian families to move into Flushing. So my friend is Taiwanese. And back in the day, there was not a large Asian populace in Flushing, Queens. You know, now it's one of the largest populations of Asians in New York City, and it's an even bigger Chinatown than it is in Manhattan, in the city. So I always loved going to Flushing. I mean, the food was, I can't even compare it. It's amazing, amazing food. I would always get this soup called malatang. It's like very, very spicy. Hopefully I'm pronouncing it right. But it is like blow your face off, like rip your face off, entirely off spicy. And we would always go after we closed a big deal or something like that. So, and it's easy to get to as well. You know, we'd get out of the office, we'd go over to Grand Central, take the 7 train all the way to the end. Those were good times, man. Those were good times. Love Flushing. Love to go again. Dan's like, Tom, my friend's mom was able to buy an apartment in Flushing after suing an airline. What? Holy crap. Dan, that is a crazy, crazy story, man. Well, thank God she's all right. Hey, Justin says, hey Tom, greetings from Costa Rica. It's my girlfriend's birthday. Can you please send a greetings? Her name is Paula. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. And she's a huge fan. Well, absolutely. Happy birthday. Enjoy your day. And I think we'll have the entire stream give a happy birthday in the chat. So guys, let's do a quick happy birthday in the chat. Wow, look at this dog. Beautiful husky here. 10 out of 10 on the husky. My sister has a husky dog. It's beautiful. Those are some of my favorite dogs after beagles. So I think beagles are number one. And huskies are probably a close number two after dachshunds, maybe. But yeah, good to see all of our viewers in Costa Rica, and happy birthday. Have a fantastic week ahead. Wish you many more. Thank you for watching the streams. We enjoy it. All right, everybody. So we are headed towards Herald Square. If you can see the Macy's in the background. This is 34th Street, coming up on Herald Square. As we approach 34th Street, we'll be able to see the Empire State Building as well as the One Vanderbilt building. Hey, Robert is here. Good to see you, Robert. Oh, I don't think we went over this yet today. So tomorrow, Tuesday, oh, look at these guys shredding down the street. Guys, I think we're gonna have to bring back the skateboard on the live stream. After seeing that, I think we gotta bring it back. So real quick, everybody, Tuesday is a big day. Obviously, last week we talked about Palo Alto Networks. Tomorrow's a big day in the cybersecurity space with CrowdStrike. So CrowdStrike competes with a company called Zscaler, ticker symbol ZS. CrowdStrike's ticker symbol is ticker symbol CRWD. So let's see if this trend of outperformance in the cybersecurity sector can continue. We'll be covering that on tomorrow's live stream, but more importantly, the Bureau of Labor Statistics will release the Job Openings and Labor Turnover Survey. Economists forecast about 10.3 million job openings on the last business day of July. That's going to be about 400,000 jobs less than last month. Now, the reason why that's important is because, again, I'll reiterate, Jerome Powell said it's going to take more than one particular data point from the CPI to convince the Fed to pivot. So if we continue to see job numbers or job openings increase, that's going to signal that the labor market is still very, very tight. So Fed Chair Jerome Powell is looking at two things, right? The amount of jobs that are available to workers, but also the labor force participation rate. So if the labor force participation rate continues to decline month over month, however, the economy has more job openings than people looking for work, that's going to put extreme pressure on wage gains. And when wages go up, that puts pressure, an upward pressure on inflation, okay? I mean, think about it like this. If you're a hiring manager and you're looking for talent out there and the talent pool continues to shrink, and if there's 10 million jobs out there and there's only, less than 10 million people looking for work, well, you have a very, very limited talent pool to recruit from. And when you have a very, very limited talent pool to recruit from, that means employees can request higher salaries, they have higher stances to negotiate from, and that further puts pressure on inflation. So that's going to be a key thing to watch tomorrow. We'll also go over that tomorrow on the stream. Hey, Western Mass Dave, what's up? Dave says, Tom, glad you're back in New York. Thank you, Dave. I appreciate the kind words, my friend. We are looking at the One Vanderbilt building. This is one of the most famous observation decks in New York City. What I would like to say is, did anybody read the Barron's article this week about just how profitable the observation decks are in New York? If you haven't, I would highly, highly suggest you read that article because it's pretty much just a cash grab out there. Hey, Sonia C says, can we see Macy's windows? Yeah, so the windows aren't up yet. Usually the Macy's windows are up during like the holidays for Christmas and stuff like that, but we'll definitely be covering it on the streams. They're all right here. Hey, Cindy Foley, thank you for joining. Says good night and be safe. Thank you, Cindy. I appreciate that. Lockjaw, thank you for joining. I'll give you guys my favorite Empire State Building view here. So if we go to the corner of West 36th Street, you guys are going to see my favorite view. Hey, we got the FDNY here. Love the FDNY. So one more block, and you guys will be able to see my personal favorite view of the Empire. Dusty Cole says FDNY, love it. You know, the Miami-Dade Fire Department too, those guys are awesome. Coming up this week, everybody, we're going to be doing a dedicated stream talking about my concerns with that 2-year Treasury note. So oftentimes I'll tell you guys to focus on that 10-year Treasury yield, but I think we should shift our focus here onto that 2-year note. Obviously the 2 years yielding more than the 10-year, and that yield curve is quite inverted, and I think it's going to get a little bit worse, and that usually predicts some major events, potentially black swan events on Wall Street. So we'll talk about that too. But check out this view of the Empire. This is probably a 9.7 out of 10. Beautiful view. Giovanni is here. Welcome. Zach Drew is here. Good to see you, Zach Drew. Jeep Guy says, what is a black swan event? So Jeep Guy, we'll do an entire stream on that. I think if I start to go into it, the stream is going to last for 4 hours tonight. But we're going to that'll be the cliffhanger for next stream. We have a lot to cover, a lot to talk about, because yesterday I wasn't able to live stream, unfortunately. So I'll quickly tell you guys what happened. I think I may have told you already, but I was supposed to fly out of Miami International Airport at 10 o'clock. I get a text message at 7 o'clock at night on Sunday saying the flight is canceled. So I needed to reschedule my flight. The only problem is all the flights were booked out on American Airlines. So I was on the phone, I was on hold, but the lady from American Airlines, she was fantastic. And she's like, look, the only flight that's leaving Florida tomorrow, because supposedly we're getting like a massive storm today for anybody, our Floridians. Supposedly we're getting hammered by a storm now in Florida. Was out of Fort Lauderdale at 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, sign me up. Because I live equidistant between Fort Lauderdale and Miami International. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. I'll fly out of Fort Lauderdale. So long story short, they didn't charge me anything extra either, because usually the airlines will charge you even if your flight gets canceled and you're leaving from a different airport. But they were really nice about it. I didn't have to pay anything extra. And we left on time, and I made it to the city on time for my meetings. So I can't complain about that. GX72 to Central Florida is doing okay right now. So what was going on there? I didn't even know, because when we were boarding the plane in Fort Lauderdale, the flight attendants were like, everybody, you got to sit down right now. They're like, if you guys don't take your seats, we're going to be stranded here in Florida for another 3 hours until this storm passes, because supposedly there was a massive storm off the coast of Fort Lauderdale that was going to hit Miami, Florida. So, I don't know. Anyway. Hey, Meep is here, says this is truly beautiful. I live in Alabama, so I don't get to see all this stuff. Well, thank you for being here. Love Alabama. Thank you to all of our viewers. Dan says, Tom, I'm flying to Puerto Rico this Sunday. Do you think my flight is going to be delayed? I don't know. I mean, this is our hurricane season, is it not, for Florida? So, I don't know. I'm probably going to text my neighbors. We have like a group chat. I think everything's fine. Maybe it was just like one of those one-off storms. But I will say, out of all the times I've flown so far in 2022, only one time was my flight not delayed or canceled. Only one time. Every other time, including this time, the flight was either delayed, canceled, or we had mechanical issues. The craziest flight is, yes, and this is a true story, we ran out of fuel. So we were going from Miami, Florida to JFK, and the pilot's like, guys, there's a big storm going into JFK. We're gonna have to circle around. The only problem is we don't have enough fuel. So we have to land in another airport. The problem is, the airport that they took us to was Buffalo, New York. I'm like, Buffalo, New York? I'm like, that's 300 some odd miles north of New York City. I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert, I'm not a pilot, I'm not gonna argue with the guy. Obviously I don't have a choice, but they're like, we're low on fuel, everybody going into JFK, so we're gonna go 400 miles to the north near the Canadian border and land. So we were hanging out in Buffalo for a couple hours, which wasn't bad. I like Buffalo. All right, team, here we are. We are right outside of Ray's Pizza, or Joe's, I said Ray's. Right outside of Joe's, famous pizza shop here in New York. I think a tad bit overrated, but it's still good. They actually moved down to Miami, Florida, and they are in the Wynwood district, which is sort of like the Brooklyn of Miami. So next time we're in Miami, we'll have to go check it out. Paul Medes is here. Pablo, welcome. Disney Hatch says, hey Tom, watching from the UK. Tarun says, hey Tom, it was pouring in Detroit today too. Good to see you, Tarun. Dr. Longus says, Tom, the live stream is a great motivator to walk. So Dr. Longus, speaking of that, I have something in the works that I think is going to be quite fun for all of those who follow and are subscribed to the stream. I think we're going to make, well, I'll hold my tongue for now. But we may down the line, with me and some of my friends, we may make an app where everybody who watches the stream, we could all see how many steps we walk a day, and we could have like competitions and things like that. I think that'd be fun. Also, it'd be a good side project to brush up on my development skills too. All right, Broadway and 41st Street. We are headed into the belly of the beast, Times Square. Hey, Lynn says, do you prefer the Toronto city vibe or New York? Well, I've only been to Toronto one time. I really liked it, but then again, I was only like 7 years old. But being from New York, I love New York. I think New York City is fantastic. June is here, says, hola. Hey, Niva Smiles says, I'm here in Miami. I'm from New York. How do you like in Miami? I just landed here in New York. Love Miami. I got a place down there. It's beautiful. Love Miami, Florida. Love all the people. Dan Zhang is like, Tom, you probably walked 20,000 steps. I think we've been averaging like 25,000 steps. That's between the stream and what we do during the day. So that's pretty good. That's like, what, 8 miles, 9 miles, maybe a little more. Yeah, Gregory's like, Tom, create your own metaverse. And other people can, yeah, maybe we'll create like a Walks on Wall Street metaverse. You guys could throw on the VR headset and we could all walk around the city together. That'd be fun. You know, speaking of the metaverse, did anybody watch the Joe Rogan podcast episode with our good pal Mark Zuckerberg? Now, Dan Zhang recommended that to me. I've only watched some clips. You know, I may watch the full thing when I get on the Long Island Railroad, but I need to download Spotify, and I don't have Spotify, so. Was it good, the interview? What do you guys think? Thumbs up, thumbs down on the interview, Mark Zuckerberg, Joe Rogan? Yeah, Gregory's like, I saw some highlights from it. Hey, Michael Anthony says, I'm near Phoenix City, Alabama. Phoenix City, ALA, and Columbus, Georgia. Awesome, love it. Hey, Sam Miguel is here, welcome. Nivis Smile says, I'm here in Miami, RN traveling nurse. I go back and forth. You know, that is a fantastic, fantastic job. That is so cool. Well, thank you for all you do. I sell a lot of software and hardware into the major home healthcare agencies, payer providers, things like that for like the, I'm sure you've heard of like the EVV, electronic visit verification, and a lot of the EMR software, the electronic medical record stuff. That's sort of what I'm in. But that's awesome, traveling nurse, it's fantastic. Love that. Hey, DowJones.eth is here. Good to see you, Dow Jones. Hey, Tamara says, I'm in Columbus, Georgia, also miss New York City so much. Love that. Got a lot of people from Georgia here. But everybody, we do have to wrap up the live stream because I have to get home. But we will be back live tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. If you enjoyed the live stream tonight, please feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. If you're new, click the subscribe button. We'll be live back here in New York City tomorrow, so I'd love to see you guys back. Thank you so much for coming out and joining me tonight. I think we covered a lot. I'll leave you guys off with the QR code. Once again, if you want to sign up for my free investing newsletter, where I give my thoughts on the US equity market, emerging markets, fixed income, all that good stuff. If you scan the QR code on your screen, punch in your email, and every other Tuesday, I'll send you my thoughts on the market. But Adam, thank you so much. Gregory, Western Mass, Dave, Disney Hatch, Cooking, Brad, Myra King, Grand Street 1, Dr. Longus, June, I appreciate it. Sunshine After Rain, all of our moderators. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Make sure you have a fantastic week, okay? It is Monday, tomorrow is Tuesday. I want you guys to put your best foot forward and attack the week ahead. Always think positive, always be solutions oriented and solutions focused. And tomorrow we'll meet right back here at 8:30 to recap everything that happened on Wall Street, talk about interesting things that happened throughout the day, and maybe have a couple of laughs along the way. So everybody, thank you so much. And to the Mighty Bull, have a good night wherever you are, because there is always a bull market somewhere. You just need to know where to look. I'll see you guys tomorrow, 8:30.